excuse me, as I go through my story, I'm going to get to a place and a part in my story where I tell people, if you told me what I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. And that's because I was brought up in a home that, well, my dad, my foster father, was a humanist. Had no God consciousness whatsoever. And going back to the day I'm told I was born on the 27th of April, 1959. I don't remember it, but I'm told that's when I was born. And I was born in Paddington, London. I was born of African parents, West African. And I had a very, very unusual upbringing. And it was unusual because at a very young age, as a baby, I was fostered out. I was fostered into, I went into one home, and then I was taken on, fostered by a couple, English couple, white, English, from the East End of London. Good old Cockneys, Lily and George Warner. And let me tell you, Lily and George Warner were I was blessed. The best people that I've ever known in my life is Lily and George Warner. They had two of their own children, biological children, and they took on my sister Eva, my brother Merrill, and myself against all the odds, because they moved from the East End to Dagenham. And back then, Dagenham was predominantly, it was a white area. And there was the giant car plant, Fords. And a lot of people that lived in Dagenham, obviously, they worked there, including my foster brother, Gerald. But there weren't people of colour, well, I didn't see any, until another family moved in some years later, the Geromas. But anyway, very unusual upbringing, and as you can see, I'm a man of colour, I'm black. My parents were white. Now my mum, bless her soul, Lily, she was about that big. She was 51 when she took me on. 51 years old, white. She had white hair that she blue rinsed. She had blue hair. So can you imagine, I'm 5 years old, I'm going to school. All right, I'm going to school, 5 years old, and I'm walking along with a white lady, grey hair that she blue rinsed. So you can imagine the stares, the gulps. And once I was the kids, it was the adults, the parents, just stared. And I'll be honest with you, at times I thought I was in a zoo, right? At least the kids would speak and call you Blackie or whatever they called you, they just called you it, but the parents just literally stared. So I hated going to school, and yet I was a good attendee. I went to school on a regular basis, I didn't bunk school. But I went to school and I hated it, because I'm not shy now, but I was very shy, very introverted when I was young. Very conscious that I was different. And to make matters worse, even as a young boy, I was tall. So I stood out, and I didn't want it. So I went to school, and it's not just because of, listen, if you're different in any way to what is known as the norm, you become a target. You know, there are people with different colour hair, or, you know, large people, whatever it is, but mine was because of colour. So, kids tend to have little gangs or the pack mentality, and I became a target because of my colour. And I had to make a decision, and it's the fight or flight syndrome. Well, I decided to fight, and I used the cricket bat to do it. Right. I fought, and I fought in fear. But once that cricket bat went to work, people tended to leave me alone, you know. But no, but in all seriousness, that's what I'd done. I fought against a guy that was older than me, and he was reckoned, his reputation, that he was the best fighter in the school. So what did I do? I go for him, knowing that I was going to get beaten. I knew it. And sure enough, I did. So most people would think, well, that's a stupid thing to do. Very stupid, but it wasn't. There was method in my madness. Once I'd fought him, no one would stand up to him. Once I fought him, he didn't befriend me, but I think he respected me for what I'd done. And because he'd done that, the other kids left me alone. But anyway, I went through school. I wasn't overly blessed. I was average. academically, but I love sport. Every sport going, I loved it, especially football. Football, rugby, cricket, basket. So I played a lot of sport. But you know, in Dagenham in those days, there were times when I literally had to run the gauntlet because about a mile, just over a mile from my home, there was a pub called the Fanshawe. And at the time, there was a group called the National Front. And that was their headquarters. When they went out on marches or rallies or they had things to do, they met in this Fanshawe. And I remember sometimes running from my home in Fitzstephen Roads to Martin's Corner, to the sweet shop or whatever, along Porter's Avenue. And cars would come past and they'd wind their windows down and Blackie go home and all the rest of it. And that's how I learned to run. Would you believe I can run faster than Linford Christie? Would you believe that? But I learned to run. I didn't run. I knew how to run. So, but in that running, fear. It's a very powerful thing. Fear is a very, very powerful thing. And I was in fear. Inside, I had total security because I knew I was loved. My foster parents, at times it seemed, it wasn't the case, but it seemed like I was the favourite. Out of 5 kids, I was the favourite. But I just knew I was loved indoors, but it was when I went outside that the fear, I would be in fear. Anyway, I don't want to spend too long on my younger days, but it is important because it shapes you, doesn't it? It's your formative years. And I remember when I was 14, I'm slowly approaching the time when I'm going to have to go out and earn a living. And I remember being in the back garden of 214 Fitzstephen Roads. I'm in the back garden and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do later on in life. And it came to me, now remember I'm 14, this is 50 odd years ago, I'm 14 years old. And I'm thinking, I want to be a bodyguard. Well, back then, bodyguarding, close protection, was the remit of the military or the police. But that was what was in there. So anyway, I get to 16, and I went to the Metropolitan Police Cadet School in Hendon for an open day. And it was a miserable grey day, pouring rain, and I went to Hendon, went into the cadet school, and they directed me to the canteen. And in the canteen were police cadets and police instructors. And I got my cup of coffee and I sat down on my own. And again, it was the looks. You know the saying, if looks good, kill. I'd have died, I don't know how many people were in there, but I'd have died many, many times. And I just felt really uncomfortable. Instead of going round and looking at the facilities or whatever, I just got up and walked home. Anyway, long story short, London Borough Barking and Dagenham took me on as an apprentice painter and decorator. So I entered into an apprenticeship, went to East Ham College of Technology and day release and whatever, and I worked on the job with tradesmen. And I was a good worker, I'm a worker. And I used to do private jobs in the evenings, weekends, and I carried that on. I finished my apprenticeship, I went self-employed, I would do up bars, pubs, restaurants, decorating in pubs and that. And then one day I just got fed up with it, painting, papering. And I said to a guy that I'd grown up with, our lives run parallel, because he went to the same secondary school as me, Gary. We both got apprenticeships, painting and decorating, and we were both at Dagenham Boxing Club. And I just said to him, what can I do to supplement my income? I'm fed up with painting and decorating. What can I do? So we're at Dagenham Boxing Club, and he said to me, become a bouncer. Now then, I was still in my teens, but he said, become a bouncer. And that was so far away from me, from my personality, from my character. It was so far away. Because even though my parents, they had no God consciousness, but they were very, very moral people. In the way that we were brought up. We would always, we'd have to say please and thank you, excuse me. And if a lady got on a bus or train and there's no seat, you get up and you let the lady sit down, or an elderly person. So things like that. They didn't swear in front of us. We were brought up morally strong, but they had no God consciousness. So anyway, carrying on the brush, And then about 2 years later, it came back to me, this thing Gary had said, about being a bouncer. So I went to a place in Ilford called the Ilford Palais. And at the Ilford Palais, they have about 16 bouncers. It's not there anymore. Quite a big place, the lower level and upper level. So I went there and they put me on a 6-week probation, 6-week trial. So I went to work, Dickie Bow and everything else. And do you know what? Because I'd lived a life, I've been taught morals, strong morals. I couldn't believe what I saw these guys getting up to. I really couldn't. And I don't have to go into detail, but I couldn't believe some of the things these guys were doing. It was terrible. But guess what? After about a year, I was doing exactly the same. And, excuse me, and my partner, my floor walker partner, Big Terry, he was an ex-Royal Navy. He was about my height, no, he was taller than me actually, but he was massive, huge man, Terry. And in the restroom, we used to get like 10, 15-minute breaks. I said, Terry, I'm going to start my own door firm. And I don't know if he was reading or whatever. He said, oh, right, okay. Well, time went on. After a couple more years, it happened. From the Ilford Palais, there was another place in Ilford, above Harris and Gibson's. It was called the Room at the Top. And then it changed to the Penthouse. So I worked over there for a while. Then I came back and worked at the Palais. And then it happened. I went back to the Penthouse. And I was at the Penthouse. It was a Wednesday evening. And we had a skeleton crew on. There was probably 4 of us on a Wednesday evening. One would man the lift because the nightclub was on top of a place called Harris and Gibson. It was almost in heaven. So there was about 4 of us. And on this particular Wednesday evening, we would stand in the reception. And the main club was through the entranceway. And there was this group of men, probably about 8, 9 people. And one of them came out, went to the WC, the toilet, because we thought they kept on looking at us. So we got ourselves ready, you know, because bouncers used to, and probably still do, we used to carry things to protect ourselves or whatever. So we got ready, we were ready, because this group of fellas is what they're looking at us. Well, anyway, this fella's gone to the toilet, he's come out, he said, just want to introduce us, we're a team, we come from the northeast of England, we're well not so much troubleshooters, he said we get sent, we go all over the country looking for prime land where we can build leisure facilities. He said, we've been watching the way that you work, we like the way that you work, would you be interested in perhaps coming over and looking at these facilities to see if you want to secure a contract? So we said, okay. And we went to Barkingside in Essex. And there's a place there called Fairlock Waters. So myself and Louis, my partner, we drove over there and they were still constructing it, still building it. And what it was an all-round leisure facility. You had the restaurant, you had a bar, you had a club upstairs, sailing facilities, golf, it had the lot. The kids' playhouse. So we were having our hands because it's 7 days, 7 nights. It's a big contract. And we got the contract. Well, on the first night, now, these people have said, we like the way you work. On the first night, turn up for work, my black suit, white shirt, I haven't got my bow tie on yet. I turn up, park my car, walk through the entrance, looking at this place, it's wonderful. Excuse me. Got into the entranceway, and the manageress, one of the managers came up, and she said, there's 3 men in the bar. And he said they're like abusing the staff, they're helping themselves, this, that and the other. Would you have a word? So I said, okay. Left my partner at the door and I went in to see these 3 men. One of them, again, he was huge. He wasn't very fit, but he was huge and 2 average sized fellas. So I said, excuse me. I said, the staff are here to serve you. They'll put all your pints, they'll serve your drinks. The staff are here to serve you, not to be abused, and you're not to look after yourself. Well, unbeknownst to me, these three men are barred from every pub in the Barkingside, Gants Hill area. So with that, I walked away, went to the entrance, put my tie on. This time a manager, these are Geordies, Sunderland, Mackens. Manager came out and he said they're doing it again. So again, I walked back in and I said, I'm asking, that's the title of the book, I'm asking you nicely. I said, basically behave yourself, otherwise you're going. So the big one said, who's going to make me? And I realised that there was cameras and everything else. And we're trying to make an impression on the first night. So I said, look, come with me, you and me, let's just have a walk outside. And we had a walk outside, and this fella's squaring up. And I'll say this because it happened. And I just knocked him out. But I knocked him out, but I thought he was dead. There was no signs of life at all. And at that point, I'm sure, it was all in my head, but I hear bells ringing, blue lights flashing, and behind bars for life. That's what I thought. I've killed the man. So I'm running, walking about, pacing about. I said, Lou, what am I going to do? She said, I'll get in the car and drive off. What can I do? Well, after, I don't know how long it was, it seemed like an eternity, but after a long time, this guy, his two mates, there's signs of life, and they've propped him up against a fence. I tell you, there was no one in the world happier than me at that moment. I'm not going to prison for life, right? I'm not even going to get arrested by the police. And these other two guys were calling me everything, and all I could do was laugh and smile. Laugh, normally I wouldn't. If that hadn't happened, you know, I'd have been a different animal. But I was so happy that he's alive. Anyway, they got him to his feet and he walked over, and this guy was big, I'm talking big. And he walked towards me, and my partner Lou said, Ez, no. But this guy came out and he put his hand out and he shook my hand and turned and walked away. And the other two were still, but I didn't care, I was just the happiest man in the world. Anyway, that's where it began. Over a period of time, the major breweries got in touch with me to supply bouncers to various trouble places. And it got to the stage where we had about 100 bouncers, just under 100 bouncers, male and female. We had about half a dozen ladies. And we worked every side of London, M25, Tunbridge, Kent, all over the place. But it was more than door work, because when you're in that scene, you get to meet people in other facets of crime, let's just say that. And we became very, WK Security, we became quite powerful. And the reason for that, it wasn't just the numbers, it was just like, we were like family. We really worked tight. And as I said, you have to, don't even have to use your imagination. We didn't just look after doors, we done other stuff. And I'm going to get to the main part, because the main part is, now you've got to understand, I had no God consciousness because I've been brought up with none, never knew anything about church, and I always felt that, the question is, you probably asked it yourself, why am I here? Well, I'm here, but for what purpose, I don't know. But when it's all over, I'm going to die, and I'm going to be put in the ground, end the story. That was my belief. And the event that changed my life was February the 6th, 1992. As well as running a security company, I worked for Taylor Walker as an assistant manager of a pub in Ilford called the General Havelock. I was the assistant manager. Well, I had one night off a week, and I had two friends that were as far away from my business as you can get. They weren't violent people, they were just nice guys. One was a white guy called, excuse me, we used to call him Chunky. His name was Andy, but we called him Chunky. And you say hello to this guy and he'd blush. You know, he was so shy, inoffensive. And the other guy was a West Indian guy, Crazy Joe. Because he was crazy, he was eccentric. Again, not a violent bone in his body. So I'm in the General Havelocks, February 6, 1992. It was a Monday night, and I'm having a drink with these two guys, and all of a sudden the doors of the pub open, and I saw this guy that used to work for me. I hadn't seen him for 2 years. Turned out he'd gone up north to Wigan to train as a licensee, publican. Well, this guy, he was a Scouser, Liverpudlian. He's opened the door and he's raging. And he's come over to me and he's telling me what's happened. I said, Scouts, calm down. So I didn't have to understand him, but he's not angry, you know what I mean? But now, he's doing everything bar froth at the mouth. I said, Scouts, calm down, tell me what's wrong. He said, those so-and-sos, he didn't say so-and-sos, but I was saying, those so-and-sos over there. Well, he was pointing to the Ilford Pally. That's where it all began for me. But now I've got nothing to do, no security, nothing to do with the Ilford Pally. Those so-and-sos over there. What they've done is, on a Monday night, they used to call it was over 30s, they used to call it grab a granny. That was the thing, right? Grab a granny, over 30s. So what they'd done, he'd gone with his fiancée to the Ilford Pally to go in there and have a night in there. And what we used to have, and they still had it, was a table so that the female security could search the ladies and tip the contents of the handbags onto the table. Well, when it came to Scouser's fiancée, they tipped the contents of the handbag on the floor. So Scouts Pete, he's going to remonstrate with the what are you doing? Well, with that, pretty much the whole security team gathered round him. And one in particular told him to something off and take, he was derogatory terms towards his fiancée. So now this guy, he wants to fight, but he's got 16 bouncers. So what he's done is come over to me, because even in those days we were very, very organised. Very organised, and you know, a couple of calls and we'd have people turn up in cars and plotted up and whatever. And the reason I say that is because I went with Scouts Pete and these other two guys to go over to get an apology from the bouncers. If I was going over for any other reason, I would have made phone calls, but I'm going over to get an apology. So the four of us, we go over there, we get to the steps of the Ilford Pally, and all the bouncers and their front of house manager are lined up. When we got there, all the bouncers are doing is throwing abuse out. We're trying to talk to them. So I said to my team, I said, come on, we go to HQ. Well, HQ was a kebab shop. Bon Appetit it was called, kebab shop in Ilford High Road. And the guy that owned it, Ahmed, a very good friend of mine and Louis. So what we used to do, finish work at say 2, 3 in the morning, then we'd go and eat out the back and eat and do other things out the back. So, excuse me, we went over to Bon Appetit. I said, Ahmed, look after Chunky and Joe. And I left them there and I went back to the Pally on my own. And when I got there were two guys on the front. So I got past those two guys, went into the reception area, and I knew the place like the back of my hand because I worked there. So I get in the main reception, the foyer, turn to my right, go up some steps through the double doors, then you're on another level. Up some more steps, through double doors, and you're on the upper level. And as I went through the doors, the bouncer that had told Scouts to something off, he was, in estimation, 12 feet from me now. And he goes inside of his black jacket. So I knew that what was going to come out wasn't going to be good for me. So I took the initiative and I literally got him by the lapels, and I ran him across the floor. I ran him across the upper level and through some more double doors and put him down on some stairs. So he's laying on the stairs that lead to the offices. And I said, tomorrow you go and apologise to Scouts and his fiancée. And this guy kept saying no. So I tweaked something up, and eventually he said, I'll apologise to her, not to him, I thought that's good enough. So I got off of him. Now from the time I've gone from the kebab shop to where we are now, probably 40-45 minutes has elapsed. Well, unbeknownst to me, they've made phone calls. So I let this guy go. And I walk back through the swing doors, the double doors, and I walk into 3 of the biggest men I've ever seen in my life. They was my height and taller, but they were bodybuilders. And the 3 of them had duster coats on, long length coats. And the guy in the middle had I saw the bat, the baseball bat. So I know what's going to happen, so I got in first. And I just remember going for this guy in the middle, and after that I remembered nothing. Well, Chunky had wondered where I'd got to. So he came over, and he actually saw what happened. The 3 of them had bats. 3 of them had bats, and the guy that I had pinned down, he had some rings, knuckle dusters. So they beat me, and this guy apparently picked my head up and kept punching the side of my head. Well, the outcome was they'd really left me for dead. And when I got to the hospital, I don't remember all this, as I say, I'm told this. The consultant surgeon, he was approaching retirement age. His name was Mr. Jones. And I do remember this. He said, if you wasn't so strong, he said, you should be dead. No man can suffer these injuries and still live. Right? This is his words. Anyway, he done a 7.5-hour operation on me. He opened my head up, and he put where my skull and mandible was done. They put 2 metal plates to hold my skull together, and my left eye had dropped. So he inserted a plastic spacer to prop my eye up, put it in a position it should be in. But the lower mandible, they could do nothing about. So the lower mandible, we all have a range of movement. Well, instead of being able to open my mouth, say that wide, I could only open it to there. And instead of being able to close it completely, I could only close it to there. And the pain in this lower jaw, my jaw was totally askew, and it was excruciating pain. It was painful. When they released me from after the operation, I was under 3 or 4 different clinics and hospitals for neurology, optical, everything. And all I had was tablets. All they gave me was tablets, painkillers. And I remember I would take tablets for a while, and I think they helped me for a little while, and then it was like I was immune. So the pain was excruciating. Now, I never ever felt sorry for anybody that either committed suicide or even contemplated it. I just thought they were weak people. I really did. Well, now I'm in a stage. Now I'm released February, March. Instead of getting better, it got worse. The pain increased. The pain was excruciating. I'm used to pain. I've been shot. I've been macheted, stabbed. I've had every part of my body anatomy has had something. All painful, but then they heal. Well, this was something else. And I remember wanting to die. Can't take the pain anymore. And 2 things kept me alive. Someone said to me, now even though my foster parents, they were wonderful people, loved them dearly, treated us as their own. There's a knowing in the knower that biologically, where's my biological parents? And I sometimes felt that I'd been given away. I'd just been dumped by my parents. And someone said to me when this happened, when I used to voice it, I used to say, can't take this anymore. They used to say, well, who's going to look after Cole and Natalie, my 2 children? I was married, I had 2 children. And I thought, yeah, I can't. That would keep me going. And the other thing that kept me going is I know those men should have killed me. They should have finished the job, because I know if I've got breath in my body, one day I'm going to be fit enough to exact my revenge, see? So those 2 things kept me going. But now, this happened in February, early February, February the 6th. We're in February, March, April, and I get to the point where I make another appointment, but this time at the London Hospital, Whitechapel. And this appointment is with another consultant surgeon, an Irishman, Mr. Coghlan. Actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because I really need to, as well as the security, the bouncing and stuff like that, I had a legitimate business with someone in debt collecting. This guy, I had the money, I put up the money, and this guy had the certificate from the Office of Fair Trading. So we set up a legitimate debt collecting business. Well, one day, this guy's come round to me, to my flat. Converted house, I had the upper level flat and the roof space. Well, the roof space we made into a small office. Keep all the filing cabinets up there. And this guy came round to my flat. And I'm in serious pain, and my memory's pretty much gone. I used to remember phone numbers just like that. I had a lot of doormen and women. I could reel their numbers on. Now I could just about remember my name. So this guy's come round, we've gone up into the loft, metal stairs up into the loft, and he's trying to talk business. Well, I'm hanging on to life. And he could see that, and he said, look, we'll leave it today, Ez. And he started going down the stairs. And he came back up, and he said, Ez, he said, will you come to church with me? Church? But when this guy said it, I know he did, he took a little bit of a step back. Because in those days, I know it's hard to believe, but I was a little bit volatile. But no, I was. I had a terrible, uncontrollable temper. And he said, will you come to church with me? Well, strange thing to say. Because by now, I'm not blind, but I've got seriously blurred vision, and I've got all sorts going on. But I just found myself saying yes. And he got a little bit excited. He said, right, me and Val and Bianca, the baby, we'll pick you up Sunday morning, we'll take you to church. Well, when he left, I thought to myself, why did I say I go to church? There ain't no God. I've never been to church, never intend to go to church. Why did I? And I thought, right, I've got 3 days in which I could concoct or make up a lie. Well, I can't go. But anyway, the Sunday morning came, I'm going to church. So I got in his car, and we go to Kaitell. And we pull up, and I'm thinking, this ain't a church, we're in a school. This ain't a church. I'm expecting the church with the steeple, I said, what, where are we? He said, no, he said, the church, we've outgrown the church, there's too many people. So we have to hire the school, Eastleigh School, Kaitell. Now by this time, I hate the world, I hate you, I hate everybody, because of what I'm going through. Full of hate, unforgiveness, and the desire. And I mean, when I say a stronger, one day, these 4 men are going to die. So, and I'm carrying this. We get out of the car, I go to the front door, and there's this fella at the door. Later I found out his name was Sydney. He smiled at me and shook me hand. Well, up until that time, I'd 14, 15 years. My business is a security business, pubs, clubs, and every day, every night. People want to shake your hand, buy you a drink, pat you on the back, smile at you. But this smile and this handshake was different. But I couldn't work out why it was different. It was just a smile and a handshake. And I went in the church, sat down, there's the preacher and the pastor's preaching, a guy called Johnny Barr. He's preaching, it's all going over my head. And I keep thinking, look at this guy at the door. Couldn't get my mind off him, Sydney. At the end of the service, one of the elders of the church come up. He said, I hear you're a bouncer. I said, you hear right. He said, well, how can you be a bouncer and a Christian? And I wasn't a Christian. But my idea or understanding of Christianity was the world of Jesus Christ and my world was so far apart. This guy's got a point. That was going to be the last time I ever went to a meeting. Then another guy comes up, big stocky builder, Tony. And he shook me out, he said, good to see men like you come into the church. So I've got conflicted, I'm hearing, one minute I'm hearing you don't belong here. And then another guy saying, nice to see you here. Got outside of the church, this guy who took me, the one who got excited, he said, well, what do you think of that? Did you enjoy that? I said, yeah, no, it's all right. I said, I only ate half the world now, not all the world. I don't eat everyone, just half. I said, I feel a bit lighter. And then this went on for a few weeks, going to church. Still don't understand, it's going over my head. But I knew I felt a little bit better. Physically, nothing had changed. In fact, it got a little bit worse. But I knew something was going on. Then this guy who took me, his brother-in-law, said to me, who worked for me as well on doors, he said to me, he said, do you want to come to a prophetic conference? So I said, well, if you tell me what that is, I might have some, I might come. He said, no, he said, you know, it's church. But he said, God uses people. God speaks through people. And then he tells me, he said, I've seen people get out of wheelchairs, and I'm thinking, I'm getting angry again now. Right, I'm getting really angry, because this man thinks I'm a mug, you know. He said to me all these different things he sees. Anyway, I said, well, I thought to myself, over the weeks I've got a little bit better inside. Physically I'm no better, but inside, I'll have it. So I said, yeah, we go. So on the July the 20th, 1992, we're going to go to a place called Kensington Temple. But prior to, from the time that guy has said to me, will you come to the conference, I've got to now go and see Mr. Cobham, the Irish consultant surgeon at Whitechapel. Because physically, I'm at the end, and I can take pain, but this is beyond. So I went to see him. Now, this man is my last hope of any kind of quality of life. So he said, come in, Mr. Kaitell, take a seat. And there was a lady there, I would imagine, I don't know, a female assistant, whatever. So he said, now don't forget, he's got all the medical evidence you would ever need of my condition, the metal plate. He's got everything. He's got jaw impressions, x-rays, the lot. I'm in a mess. So he said, now Mr. Kaitell, I've gone to him and I've said, you've got to do something, otherwise I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to kill myself. He said, well, there are three options, Mr. Kaitell. He said, we can undo your head. And he said, we can re-site the metal plates, put them in a more comfortable position. Because if the temperature rises, my pain increased. Or he said, we can give you the strongest painkillers for an indefinite period. The strongest painkillers available. Or he said, this lower mandible, he said, we can break it and reset that, but he said, as soon as you chew, it'll pop. So from February, when I was released from hospital, and I wasn't married, my partner, she would make sure I got straws. And she would be, for months, she liquidised my food, because I couldn't bite, I couldn't chew. If I opened my mouth too far, the pain would be indescribable. And I'm not over-dramatizing, this is how it was. So, this man, and the three options, he's my last hope. And I didn't fancy any of these options. I didn't want to be on painkillers. I didn't want to have that reset and then it just popped. And I certainly didn't want my head open up again. So he said to me, Mr. Kaitell, he said, let me know quickly. It's a matter of haste. Let me know which option you're going to choose. So I walked out of that consultancy room in London Hospital, Whitechapel. Now I've got no hope. Absolutely none. But now we've got this appointment at Kensington Temple. We're going to go to this meeting, this conference. Well, on the Sunday the 19th of July, on top of all the other injuries, I was deaf. And that was the worst of it. The fear that came then, and I remember being in the bathroom, and I run across the landing upstairs, and I'm screaming and shouting out, Karen, I can't hear. And that, on Sunday the 19th of July, I determined in my heart, not waiting anymore. 4 men are going to die. And I knew where they were, in Raynham, and where, I knew exactly where they were. And I determined in my heart, these men are going to die. And no one knew this, I didn't verbalise it, I just knew I was going to do it. The next day, we're going to meet up, myself, my partner at the time, Aaron, we're going to meet up with Marcus and Julie, his wife, 4 of us. Kaitell Station, get on the Central Line to Notting Hill Gate. But on the Sunday, my right leg, my right knee, I had such pain in my leg, in my knee. And I said to Kaitell, I said, I don't know if I can go. I said, because if we can't get a seat, I can't stand. Anyway, we went. We met with the other couple. We got on the central line. We're talking about everyday stuff. And then this Marcus says, he said, you've got to understand the ways of God. He said, you've got to forgive. Otherwise, God can't forgive you. I said, if there's a God, because I wasn't a Christian, I've been going to church, but I wasn't a believer. I said, if there's a God, he won't forgive me for the things that I've done. He said, I'm telling you, he will. But he said, you've got to forgive. Now, he must have said the word forgive or forgiveness probably at the most 4 times, not even that. He might as well have said it 1,000 times. He just it was ringing around my head, and it was like having a hammer smashed over my head. I put money in that man's pocket. Food on his table, he works for me. But it sounds to me, he's siding with the guys that left me for dead. So the Tabasco, it's getting warmer, and then it's getting, and I knew when that happens, I know now what it was, but I didn't understand it at the time. But it used to rise up, and then anything could happen. So I could feel it rising up. And we're on the train. And he said, forgive. He said, God. I said, if there's a God, he won't forgive me for the things that I've done. He said, he will. Well, now the Tabasco's are there. It's only got a little way to go. Unfortunately, we get to Notting Hill Gate, the train doors open, and I got off. I'm with 3 other people. I don't really know where I'm going apart from the signpost. I don't know where I'm going. But what I do know is the people that I'm with are my enemies. Because he should be saying to me, Ez, when you go and exact revenge, count me in. I'll come with you. But the 2 women, I wasn't talking to anybody. Now we get to the part where I say to people, well, I'm going to tell you, if you told me, I would not believe it, but it happened. I'm walking in front, directions, Kensington Temple. Just as we got to Kensington Temple, now I was raging. Just as we got to the steps of the temple, this presence, I'm going to describe it as it was then. This presence come all over me. And inside, I forgive these 4 men, genuinely forgive them. But I can't verbalise this for 2 reasons. One, because I don't understand what's happening. 1 minute I want to kill people, now I've forgiven them, genuinely. And I don't understand that. And also, a man in my position, you can't talk about forgiveness. Because in the world, and especially in my world, you talk forgiveness, that's weakness. You talk forgiveness, you lose your business. So I didn't verbalise it, but I'm trying to work out what's going on. We got into Kensington Temple and it was packed, upper tier, lower tier, and there were 2 rows at the back, 2 rows of chairs at the back. And we sat in the 2nd row from the back, and I made sure I sat in the aisle seat, because if I see or hear things I don't like, I'm gone. Right? So I was sitting down, and I'm just looking around. I thought, the nightclub business and pubs, it's the university of life, because you meet absolutely everyone from every background. I thought I'd learned a lot. Well, I'm looking around, I'm seeing black people, white people, Chinese, everything, League of Nations, they was all there. Young, old, but the difference was, everyone seemed to have, I now know it's not easy, but they seemed to be happy to be alive. And I'm looking around, and then I start seeing men raising their hands. Well, that made me uncomfortable. Grown men raising their hands, praising God, they're wimps. This is what I thought. I'm being honest with you. I thought, these are wimps, I don't belong here. So the couple, Charles Slade and his wife, they were the ministers that night. And they seemed like a far away, like a football pitch away. And the worship team were playing. And this minister, he stopped the worship team and he said this. Now, don't forget, I know nothing about the Lord, but he said this. He said, the Lord is here tonight. Jesus, but by his Holy Spirit. And he said, he's telling me of a woman who needs a new tailbone. The coccyx. A man who had a motorbike accident 2 years ago has never fully recovered or healed. The Lord's going to. He said, there's a black dude at the back, right? The black dude at the back, the Lord thanks you for forgiving son. So I'm looking around. He can't be talking to me, he doesn't know me, does he? Then I thought, Marcus has told him. And then I thought, no, Marcus, he ain't left my side, he's been there, he's behind me. He said, the Lord thanks you for forgiving son, and he's going to heal you tonight. Then I'm thinking, how can this Jesus, who I can't see, feel, touch, smell, he's going to heal me, but Mr. Coughlin, Mr. James, they can't help me, see? Now this is happening quickly. And my mind's moving so fast, I'm trying to work. And then he said, those with injuries stand up. Well, in that setting, because of pride and ego and everything else, I would never stand up in that setting. Soft, weak. But I found myself standing up. And there must have been 20 other people dotted across. I'm standing there. And this guy had said, the Lord thanks you for forgiving son, and he's going to heal you tonight. So I'm standing there, and I'm trying to adopt a hard man pose. Do you know what I mean? You know, you look hard. So I'm standing there, probably like this, and all of a sudden, this right leg starts to shake. Now don't forget, I'm in control of 100 bouncers. Now I can't control my right leg. And the more I tried to stop it shaking, the more it shook. It was like a battle was going on, and I was losing. So I'm trying to stop it, and I'm thinking everyone is watching me, right? I'm thinking everyone's watching. I feel so stupid. But then closely for my legs, my torso, my head, every part of me just shook and shook and shook. And I'm just standing there shaking, but this intense heat enveloped my whole being, but especially my head. This heat, but it wasn't a heat that you'd want to run away from, not a fire you'd want to, but this intense heat enveloped me. And I'm thinking, what is going on? My clothes at that time, I had a black polo shirt and light blue jeans, the top of my jeans and the front of my shirt, I was soaking. And then, I'm the one, I used to be one, I had to see it to believe it. But I was very conscious of 800 to 1,000 people, and I'm thinking all eyes are on me, so I'm doing all I can to stop this happening. But then I knew I was out of control. I'll tell you for why. I have heard stories of people, their spirit coming out of their body and all stuff, and I've never believed it. But listen to this. I was conscious for a while of things happening. Then afterwards, I was somewhere where there's everything that we look for. Love, security, peace, joy. It was wonderful. Those 800 odd, they weren't there. Now I didn't see the Lord, I didn't see gold streets, but after a while, I remember, and I put it this way, I came to, and I sat on my chair before I fell down. And I'm puffing and blowing, I'm sitting there trying to work out what's just happened to me. Physically, there was no change at all. I still had excruciating pains, still couldn't see properly, couldn't hear, jaw ache, more than an ache. But I knew something had happened. And I said, Karen, I need to get a coffee. So we went into, I don't know if they've still got it, but a vending machine in Kensington Temple. And we went to the vending machine, she got with 2 coffees, and she got me a packet of crisps. Because I could put a crisp in my mouth, and I could get the flavour, and when they would go soggy, I could swallow. But I couldn't open and bite anything. She got a small packet of Ven biscuits. She's opened the Ven biscuits. Now this is the woman that made sure I got straws and liquidised all my food. She's opened the biscuits and she offered me a biscuit. And I was going to say, you silly so-and-so, because I'm frustrated. I love food. Love food. Couldn't buy anything. And this woman is offering me a biscuit. And I'm going to say, you silly. And I didn't. I took the biscuit and I thought, if I bite this, it's going to cost me. I'm going to pay with pain. But I took a bite and I'm waiting for the pain. And there was no pain. So I was brave, I got brave. I took a second bite. And again, I'm waiting for pain. No pain. And as we're standing by this vending machine, you used to have to go down 3 steps, and it was almost like a basement. As we're standing by the machine, my eyesight, I wasn't blind, but it was seriously blurred vision. It started, as you would see a flower come into bloom and open up, my eye just opened up. My hearing came back. The pains in my head didn't totally go, but they subsided, they became bearable. And I'm standing there and I'm moving my jaw in places that the medical profession said I can't do. I opened and closed my mouth, clamped my teeth together. I went back into the meeting, sat down, listened to him preaching, didn't understand a lot, but I knew this Jesus that he's talking about, that I couldn't see, feel, touch, smell. He must be real. Because Mr. James and Mr. Coughlin are well-read, educated men. They were top in their fields, and they couldn't help me. But this Jesus, who thanked me for forgiving those 4 men, this Jesus who said he's going to heal me tonight, it had happened. I went up to the front, I answered the call, repented, and got born again. Hallelujah. By the time I left that meeting, I've never had another pain. I could see, I'm not going to say perfectly, I can see as well as most people in this room. I can hear, although my wife reckons I've got selective hearing. Right? I can eat what I want. In fact, the lady, Julie, that came said, Ezra, I saw her 24 years after this event. She was there that night and she witnessed it. And she said, Ezra, did you get a cassette tape of that tape? And I said, yeah, but I've lost it. She said, I've got it. Do you want it? And she gave it. But she was there. She said, do you remember what you done? The first thing you done when we left her? I said, no, I don't remember the first thing. She said, we went to a burger bar and you got the biggest burger going. She said it didn't last long. I'm sure we did that burger. But that's what happened to me. There's a lot more, but obviously time doesn't permit. There's a lot more to this, what the Lord done. A lot more. But I would never have believed that. If anyone told me what I've just told you, I wouldn't believe it. I was that stupid. I was a foolish man. Again, my wife says you still are. But I've learned, I'm wiser now. You know why? You know why I'm wiser? I said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, you're in my life, Lord Jesus. I said it 32 years ago, and I'm saying it every day. Praise the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.